Hello and welcome back to another video as we return back to domestic proceedings after a busy European midweek. On the agenda today is Newcastle against Man United, a 4:30 kickoff on Saturday at St James's Park. In my opinion, this is one of the more exciting Premier League matchups of the weekend, and it's a game I'm personally really looking forward to watching. Newcastle come into this game in fantastic form. Since beating Liverpool in the EFL Cup final, they've gone on to secure 2 Premier League victories against Brentford and a very convincing win against Leicester last time out. Those results have propelled Newcastle into 5th. As it stands, they are 1 point above Man City, 2 points above Aston Villa, and they are tied on points and only behind Chelsea on goal difference. So still plenty to play for Newcastle, and it is worth noting that they do obviously have the game in hand. So they'll be looking forward to this game against Man United on Saturday. They're in flying form right now. I think the sort of feeling around camp couldn't be much higher. Obviously just coming off winning a trophy, back-to-back wins in the league, and there is a very realistic chance that they secure another Champions League spot for next season. So plenty to play for Newcastle, and all the signs are pointing to St James's Park to be really up for this game on the weekend. Meanwhile, Man United find themselves in 13th, having come just off the back of a pretty dull 0-0 draw against Man City. Prior to that, they were also beaten 1-0 by Forest, so Man United have actually failed to score in the last 2 Premier League games. And it is worth noting that they do have a European midweek fixture against Lyon tonight. Obviously this video will be posted before then, so it might be worth noting just how they get on in that. But they do have a shorter turnaround than Newcastle. They have obviously less time to prepare, and that is another factor to consider for this game. Based on everything I've said so far, the fact that there's such a real contrast in sort of form between the two sides, I think it did come as a surprise to me that Newcastle are actually backable as a single to win. They're priced around the sort of 1.7 mark with most bookies to win this game, and I do think that on the surface looks a bit high. It comes as no surprise that Newcastle have fared much better at home than they have on the road. That's been a sort of trend that has persisted over the last few seasons for them. In fact, they've won 13 out of 20 home games in all competitions so far. However, for me, more importantly is Man United's away record this season. They've won just 6 out of 23 in total, with a lot of draws. However, if we do look into those wins, we can see they beat Leicester 3-0, they won 2-0 against Bucharest in the Europa League, they beat Fulham, they beat Man City, which was a sort of outlier, they beat Victor Plzen and Southampton. So 4 of their 6 wins have been against much lower opposition, so Southampton, Leicester, and then 2 wins in the Europa League. So against the sort of bigger teams on the road, they have really struggled this season. Obviously there have been a couple of outlier games, a lot of draws, but I do think Newcastle really have the upper hand in this game. With the expectation of a solid Newcastle performance here, I'm going to lock in Newcastle to win at 1.7 as my first bet, and then move on to a Newcastle shot angle, which is for Jacob Murphy to register 2 or more shots, which is priced at 1.66 on Bet365, so slightly on the shorter side. But I do think that price presents fantastic value, potentially as a main line, and then going on to ladder. Now, looking into Jacob Murphy's data at home this season tells me that he's landed this bet in 10 out of 13 in all competitions. If we look into his failures, he managed just 1 shot against Arsenal, although he did score. He also managed just the 1 shot against Bournemouth. However, this is when Bournemouth were sort of playing at the peak of their powers, in fantastic form, looking like a pretty much unbeatable side, and they did actually beat Newcastle 4-1 in that game. So that just goes to show how good a form the Cherries were in. And the other game where he failed was towards the start of the season against Manchester City. So he's failed to land the main line of 2+ shots in 3 very difficult matchups. And as I've already mentioned, I do think this matchup against Manchester United will be an easier one for Murphy, at least much easier than those 3 games that I've already mentioned. Now, I do want to just highlight Jacob Murphy's shot data when we include the super sub rule. Now, Harvey Barnes and Joe Willock have typically been the replacements for Jacob Murphy this season, and both of those players have been extremely good for shots. Joe Willock, I believe, is ruled out of this game. Anthony Gordon is also a doubt, which obviously will affect Jacob Murphy's minutes However, let's assume Anthony Gordon does start. It will likely be on the left. Jacob Murphy will start on the right. And then Harvey Barnes will probably replace Murphy around the sort of 75-minute mark, which I think is great for this bet. Alternatively, Murphy will play the full 90, and given that he's averaging 2.62 shots per 90 this season, again, I still really like this bet. So having the super sub rule available on Bet365 really does, again, increase the allure for this bet. So these are the two angles I've got in mind. First of all, starting off with Jacob Murphy to just register 2+ shots, priced at 1.66. Or alternatively, if you do prefer sort of longer odds bets, you could go for Jacob Murphy 3+ shots, which is priced at 2-1. Or by adding in a shot on target to that, you can boost the odds to 3.6, which is again a price I really like with the super sub rule. Moving on to my third and final angle of attack for this game, and it will be for Lenny Euro to register a foul, which is priced at 1.83 with Paddy Power. Now, it is worth mentioning again that Man United do obviously have a game against Lyon today, so things could change with this injury list. However, I'm going to go off what FOTMOB have available right now. I've corroborated it with a few other sources, and I think this is about right. So I'm going to assume that Lisandro Martinez, Matthijs de Ligt, Aiden Heaven and Johnny Evans all miss out on this game, so 4 centre-backs for Ruben Amorim to contend without. And that should give Lenny Euro another start at least, and probably another 90-minute run out. And then this bet becomes purely just a day to play, given that Lenny Euro has landed this selection of 1+ foul in 6 of his last 7 starts. The only time he failed was against Arsenal, so obviously a tougher matchup. 4 fouls, but also he was substituted after 45 minutes. Interestingly as well, Heaven was his replacement and he committed a foul, so this bet would have actually landed with the super sub rule. In total for Man United, he's committed a foul in 10 out of 14 starts under Ruben Amorim, and just based on that, I don't think this price should be anywhere near the 1.83 which is on offer from Paddy Power. That will be all the bets I intended to cover in this video, so just to quickly summarize, the first bet I covered is for Newcastle to win at 1.7, then Jacob Murphy to register 2+ shots at 1.66, with the potential to ladder that as well, and then finally Lenny Euro to commit a foul, which is priced at 1.83 with Paddy Power. Best of luck for any bets you decide to go with. I appreciate all the support on this video and on the channel in general, and I will catch you all in the next one next week, so take care.